I stood frozen in disbelief as my husband laughed at the woman across the cafe. She was just standing there, waiting for her coffee, doing absolutely nothing wrong. Yet he leaned toward me, smirked, and whispered loud enough for her to hear, "That fat woman disgusts me." I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. Shame, anger, and heartbreak tangled in my chest. I didn't say a word, not then. But the next morning, I made a decision that would change everything he thought he knew about me, and himself. We were married for 5 years, and I always believed Mark was a kind man, maybe a bit blunt, but kind. That day, in the middle of the cafe, he proved me wrong. The woman he mocked looked stunned, her hands trembling as she turned away. I wanted to apologize, but before I could, Mark chuckled and said, "People should take care of themselves if they don't want to be ridiculed." I felt my stomach twist. I stared at him, wondering when this cruel version of him had appeared. He caught my expression and scoffed, "Oh, don't give me that look. You know I'm right." The drive home was silent. I couldn't look at him. He tried to joke about it, saying, "Come on, don't tell me you're one of those sensitive types now." But I wasn't angry because of his joke. I was angry because I realized, if I ever changed, if life ever affected my body or appearance, he'd treat me the same way. That thought haunted me all night. When I went to bed, he slept peacefully beside me as if nothing happened. I stared at the ceiling and whispered to myself, "You just showed me who you are, Mark." The next morning, I woke up with a plan. But before I could act, I needed to remind myself of something. I walked to the old drawer in our closet and pulled out a photo, a picture of me from 8 years ago. Back then, I was heavier. I had lost over 70 pounds before meeting Mark. He never knew that part of my life. I never told him how cruel people had been. The stares, the whispers, the jokes, they still echoed in my head. Losing weight wasn't just physical for me, it was emotional healing. But his words at that cafe reopened every wound I'd ever buried. I realized he didn't love me for who I was, he loved the version of me that fit his idea of acceptable. That morning, I placed that old photo in his briefcase, tucked between his documents. On the back, I wrote, "You once loved this woman too, you just never met her." Then I got dressed, calm and deliberate, because I wasn't going to fight with him. I was going to teach him. When he came down for breakfast, I greeted him like nothing had happened. He looked surprised. "You're not mad anymore?" he asked. "Not at all," I said, smiling faintly. "Actually, I made plans for us today." He seemed pleased, probably thought I'd moved on. But the plans weren't what he expected. I told him we were going to a community event downtown, a wellness and inclusion campaign run by a local charity. I said it was for my work. When we arrived, his face dropped. The event was focused on body positivity. People of all shapes, sizes, and stories stood proudly, sharing their journeys. Some spoke about eating disorders, others about bullying. One woman talked about how strangers' comments had almost pushed her to give up on herself. I watched Mark fidget, uncomfortable in his own skin for once. When that same woman he had mocked at the cafe took the microphone, his eyes widened. I had invited her. She spoke gracefully, describing how hurtful public ridicule could be. Then she smiled and looked directly at me in the crowd, and I knew she understood why I brought him there. Mark couldn't even look up. His arrogance melted into shame. For the first time, he didn't have a comeback. When we got home, Mark didn't speak for hours. The silence was heavy, almost suffocating. Eventually, he said, "You planned that, didn't you?" "Yes," I replied calmly. "Because I wanted you to see what cruelty looks like when it's not you delivering it." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "I didn't mean it that way. It was just a joke." I shook my head. "That's the problem. You think someone's pain is your entertainment." He didn't respond. So I went to the bedroom and placed that old photo, the one I'd put in his briefcase, on the nightstand in front of him. "I was her," I said quietly. The woman in this photo. Before I met you. His mouth parted, but no words came out. For years, I fought to love myself again. I was that fat woman once, and I still carry her with me. You insulted her yesterday, and you insulted me too. He looked away, face pale. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because I thought I didn't need to, I said. I thought kindness didn't require a warning label. He sat there, silent, while tears rolled down my cheeks, not because I wanted him to feel guilty, but because I finally realized something. I couldn't love a man who looked down on others just to feel tall. The next morning, I woke up early. I brewed coffee, packed my bag, and wrote him a note. It said, Mark, I hope you find the compassion you lost somewhere along the way. I'm leaving for a while, maybe for good. Don't look for me. I need to remember the version of myself that didn't need your approval to feel worthy. When he woke up, I was already gone. I drove to my sister's place 2 towns over, feeling lighter than I had in years. He called several times that day, then sent a text, I'm sorry. Please come home. I didn't reply. Not because I wanted revenge anymore, but because I wanted peace. Weeks passed. One day, I saw him post on social media, a long apology about learning empathy, about how one careless comment can destroy someone's confidence. Maybe he changed. Maybe he didn't. But that wasn't my responsibility anymore. What mattered was this: I found strength in silence and power in walking away. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. It's leaving someone to face the echo of their own cruelty. Some people believe karma takes time, but sometimes you become karma yourself. I didn't need to scream or humiliate him, I just had to show him what real humanity looked like. His reflection in that moment was punishment enough. Because when you mock others for what they can't change, it says more about the emptiness in you than it ever will about them. And the day you realize that truth is the day you understand what real ugliness looks like.